Hey everyone, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create an 8-directional dodging system using Unreal Engine 5. You can also find the animations used in this video in the description on my Discord channel. And if you really like this video, you can support me via Patreon, where you'll also find the complete project files for this entire tutorial. With that said and done, let's get into it. Hey everyone, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create an 8-directional dodging system using Unreal Engine 5.6. Now, this can work for Unreal Engine 5.7 as well, so no worries. Now, it will also work for older versions of Unreal from 5.1, so that's also something to keep in mind. The first thing I want to do is create a third-person template, and I'll rename this project to be Dodge System. I'll select Create and give it a few seconds to load up. Alright, I'm going to dismiss this notification, and the first thing I'd like to do is ensure that my view mode is set to unlit and real time is disabled. Next, I'll ensure that in my editor preferences, that all my windows open up within my main window. I can now close this, and let's create our first folder, and I'll call this Dodge System. Now within this folder we need a few others, so I'm going to create one for my component in which we are going to be attaching to our player character. I'll then add a new blueprint class of type actor component, and I'll call this AC_Dodge System. Next, I'll add another folder for my enums, and this is what we're going to be using to decide the direction that we want to dodge in. So I'll call this E_Dodge Direction. Let's see, let's fill out the enum as we're here. I'll add 9 entries. The first one will be none. The second will have our cardinal directions, which is forward, backward, left, and right. And now let's do the intercardinal directions, which is forward, left, forward, right, backward, left, and backward, right. Okay, so with that completed, we can now save this enum and close. Next, let's open up our, I guess we can do this as we're here. Let's create our inputs folder, and this will be our input actions that are dedicated to this Dodge system. So when we want to migrate, we can simply right click on this folder, migrate this to a new project, and you can have whatever you need. So within this input action folder, I'll add a new input action, and I'll call this IA_Dodge. Next, I'll head to the default third-person templates input mapping context, and I'll add a new mapping, and this will be our IA_Dodge. I'll then set the key to be space, and I'll bind the key from jump to be F, just so it's convenient. Next, within the Dodge Systems component here, I'm going to open up the Dodge System, and on the event begin play, I'll drag off and do cast to character. The object will be the owner of this component, so I'm going to choose get owner. In this case will be our player character, and from the character reference return value, I'll promote that to a variable. I'll simply rename this to be character. I can now compile this and collapse it into a function, and I'll call this function save character reference. I'm going to open this up, just neaten things up a bit, and call my return node. We don't have to worry about this cast failing, so I'm not going to do anything there. Next, I'd like to ensure that certain functions are public and private. So I'm going to make this function private and placed in a new category called private. Give me a second while I adjust my microphone. Okay. I'll also make the variable private and place in the private category. Awesome. Let's create our, let's get the dodge direction. So what I'm going to do is create a new variable of type dodge direction, and I'll call this dodge direction. And I will create a new function called get dodge direction. Now this is going to be the largest function within this entire system, so please take your time. The inputs for this will be of type vector 2D because we're going to be utilizing Unreal Engine's default movement input system to decide what direction the character is currently going in and what animation to play. So I'm going to make this input a vector 2D, and I'll simply call this action value. I'll also add an output, and this output will be of type dodge direction, and I'll simply rename this to be return value. I'll make this function pure, and now let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to promote this to a variable, and I'll call this dodge action value. I'll then check if this is equal to 0. Now if it is equal to 0, then we want to return backward. So basically when we are idle and we press dodge, it will just dodge backwards. There's no need to decide on which direction to dodge in. Now this is where things are going to get a bit more confusing, I guess, for some. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable called support diagonal. And this is going to be of type Boolean. Now this is for the person that don't have 8 directions. You can also utilize the 4 cardinal directions. But before I continue, I'd like to change my compile settings, and I'll select jump to error node and on success only. This way when I hit my compile key, it also saves my game. I'm going to get this variable and convert it to a branch. And we are going to do the cardinal directions first. So let's get our dodge action value, and I want to split this struct pin. I'll then add a branch, and I'll also duplicate this return node and connect it off of the true pin of the branch. Now we're going to check for forward first, so I'm going to say if my dodge action value is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, by the way, connect this to the false because this is only for the simple cardinal directions. Off of the true, we're going to include the intercardinal directions. Right, so if the action value is greater than 0, then we are going forward. I'm then going to duplicate this and connect this here. I'll then right click on this greater than node and convert this to a less than. If it's less than 0, then we are going backwards. I'm going to put a little comment, and this will be forward and backward. Alright, now let's do left and right. I'm going to copy all of this, paste it, and connect it to the false pin of the previous branch. I'm going to rename this to be left and right. The only thing that we need to do here is change the return values. So I'm going to do right. And actually, I'm going to do it left and right. So let's do left and right. I'm going to swap these pins from the Y to the X, and I'm going to change this greater than node to a less than node. So if the dodge action value on X, which is our left and right keys, is less than, this means we are going left. And if it's greater than, this means we are going right. And if all fails, then we'll just go backwards. Most likely it will never reach this branch, but it's always good to cover your bases. Okay, so we have this, and we're looking pretty good. We're almost there. Now let's do the intercardinal directions. Okay, so we're going to do this by bringing this down a bit, because we're going to need the room. It's not a lot, but it's something. I'm going to copy this and paste it up here. Now, what do we need to check? Let's check our forward left and right first, and then we can do our backward left and right. So we're going to check first if our dodge action value is, let's do greater than. So if this is greater than 0 and our y is also greater than 0, so I'm going to do it and boolean. Connect this to your branch and connect this to the true pin. So if both of these conditions are met, then we want to return forward right. I'll then duplicate this, connect it to the false. Now, to do forward left would be if our x is less than 0, but our y is greater than 0, meaning we're going forward and left. I'm going to leave a comment. I'll call this forward right and left. Now let's duplicate this for backward right and left. I'm just going to bring this down a bit. Okay, so let's rename this. So if we have to go backward right, this would mean that our input axis for y is less than 0, but our x is greater than 0. This would mean we are going backward right. And for backward left would mean our action y value would be less than 0, and our action x value is also less than 0. And this would be going backward left. Now to combine both of these, all we'll need to do is bring this closer and connect the false to this cardinal direction branch. I'll then add a reroute pin so we can just see things a lot better. And that's it for this function. Now, we'll need to perform this action, but before we do, let's do the reset dodge functionality. Since it's smaller, I'll create a new variable called isDodging, and I'm going to create a function called reset dodge. The first thing I want to do is set isDodging to false. I'll set my dodge direction to none, and I'm going to reset my action value to 0, 0 as well. This way, when we press space and we are idle, it will just perform the dodge backward animation. Okay, now for the last function I believe within this component, you may need at least two, but two small ones. Let's do the smallest, so I'm going to call this getAnimInstance. I'm going to get my character, drag off, and I'm going to search for getAnimInstance. And this is going to access our character's mesh, which is exactly what we want. I'll then return this value and make this function pure. Good. Now let's create the function that ties everything together, and I'm going to call this perform dodge. This function is also going to take in an input. So let's do that now. To save ourselves the work, I'm going to utilize this function, get dodge direction, and drag in the action value. So we don't need to add this manually. I'll then get my isDodging boolean, and I'll convert this to a branch, and I'll first check if this is true or false. If this is already true, this means we are already dodging, so there's no need to run this function. Instead, we are going to call our return node. Exit the function early. Next, I'm going to set my dodge direction variable as the return value of this function. We'll then need a new variable, and I'll call this dodge animations. And this is going to be of type e dodge direction, but this is also going to be a map. So we can change the value of this map to be anim montage. And this is going to be the montage that is going to be utilizing when we choose a specific direction. So I'm going to get the dodge animations. I'm going to drag off and search for find. And I want to find the dodge direction that we need, or the character is currently inputting, I should say. I'll then add a branch. And if this animation was found, then I want to get my getMainInstance function, and I'm going to search for montage play. This way it's going to play the animation montage from the dodge animations map that we just created. So I'm going to drag this pin into the montage to play, and that will be all. At end, there's one more thing we need to do, which is set is dodging to true. And I'm going to call my return node. It's that simple. Now all we need to do is test this out and add our animation montages. So I have a few that I will be providing. So you can follow along with this tutorial. I'm going to add a new folder called animations. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to drag these in. Next, we'll select our skeleton and select import. While these are importing, and now they are completed, I want to right click and head over to Asset Actions and Edit Selection in Property Matrix. I'll then head over to the root motion section, and I want to enable root motion and set force root lock to true. I can now close this property matrix and save my game. With this done, there are some retargeting issues there. So to fix this, I want to select my settings within my animation sequence or skeleton, whatever or wherever you are right now, and I want to select show retargeting options. Here you can see we have animation scaled from the pelvis go down. What I'm going to do is right click and recursively set this translation to be retargeting skeleton. Now that has been fixed. We have some other issues, which is the pelvis is not being animated. So to fix that, we are going to select this with using the left click and choosing animation. This way, everything is now ready to go. We can now close this. And let's head over to the folder where we have our animation sequences. I'm going to create a new folder called sequences because we want to create montages out of all of these animations as well. I'm going to drag them in, and then I'll create a new folder here called montages. Within the sequences folder, I want to right click on all of these animation sequences and create an animation montage. I'll then drag these montages into the montages folder. Alright. And lastly, we need an animation notify. And this is the notifier that we are going to be placing in each animation montage to reset the dodge state. I'll then right click and create a new blueprint class, and the class type will be animNotify. I'll select this and I'll call this an_reset_dodge. Let's open this up, and I want to override a function called received_notify. Now what this is going to do is when an animation is playing, for example, this montage, it's going to trigger a notify that calls a series of events or features or functionality, that however you want to say it. and this is going to reset the dodge state. So when he gets to here, I want to call reset dodge, for example. So the mesh component is the skeletal mesh that is currently playing this montage. So I'm going to drag off, and I want to get the owner of this, and this is going to give us an actor return value, an actor component. So the target is actor component, sorry, and this is going to return an actor. From this actor, I want to search for get component by class, and I want to access the dodge system component. I'll first check if this component is actually valid, meaning if this was actually placed within the player character's components tab hierarchy. From the return value of this, I'm going to drag off and search for reset dodge, and this is going to call the function that we created a few minutes earlier. I'll then call my return node and set the return value to true. And that's it. We can now close this. We're going to head over to our dodge system component and select our dodge animations variable. I'm going to add a few elements and choose all of the keys that we need, which is forward, backward, left, right, forward right, backward left, and backward right. Now let's choose the animation montages for each direction. I'm going to choose forward, backward, left, and right. And now let's do the intercardinal directions. Forward left, forward right, backward left, and backward right. Awesome. Now let's wire everything up. So what I'm going to do is head over to my third-person blueprint, and I'm going to add this component. So I'm going to search for AC.system. Now there's a few things here that are public that we don't need to be public. So I'm going to head over to the dot system, and I'm going to make these variables private. The only variables that we need are support diagonal, which I'm going to place in a category called public, and the dodge animations, in case you want to swap them out without having to open up this component again. I'm going to do the same thing with these functions. So for get dodge direction, I'm going to make this private, and the get anim instance, I'm also going to make this private. Now let's drag this in to the private category, and I'm going to place these in the public category. Awesome. Now I'm going to search for IA_dodge within my third-person character's blueprint, and from the started pin I'm going to drag off and get my AC dodge system, and from this I'll search for perform dodge. I'm going to connect this up, and we need the input action from our movement so we can know which direction the character is currently moving in. So I'm going to search for IA_, and you can see we have get IA move, or whatever in your game it's called for your movement, which would be this function, this event, sorry. And now I'm going to insert this right there, and we have everything that we need. So to test this before adding the animation notify to each sequence, I'm simply going to call reset dodge right here. Now this is temporary, so don't worry about this. This is just for testing. I'll then change my character's mesh to Manny because we have male animations. And now let it play. Can dodge forward, backward, left, right. And support diagonal is currently false. So let's close the game. Open up our third-person character, or let's do it in the dodge system. Head over to variables, public, and I'll make this true by default. And now we can go forward, backward, left, right, forward, left, forward, right, and backward, left. Now the reason we are not going to be leaving the reset dodge function on completed and cancelled is because we can spam it like this, and we don't want to do that. Okay, so let's head over to the third person character event graph, and I'm going to remove that reset dodge function from here. I'll just put a comment on this and I'll call this dodge action. Alright, and in each animation montage that we have here, we are going to right click within the notifies section and add a notify, and we're going to select reset dodge. So when the character dodges, if you want this to be a bit more responsive, you can place this closer or further away based on animations that you have. So when he backstep like this, I want to reset dodge. This way he can then dodge again, even though he's within this pose. I'm going to do the exact same thing for each of these animation montages. Alright, so with that done, we can now test this. We can go forward, and we cannot spam it anymore. And we're getting all the directions that we need. Now if you have more dramatic animations, obviously you can get some really cool results, but these are the animation sequences that I found for free so that you guys can follow along and get the education and knowledge that you need from this. Right, so that's literally it. That's it. The dodge system is now complete. Now you can improve this by swapping out the animations, adding more states, and even having some other reset functionality. For example, when you trigger movement, do you want to stop the dodging? Do you want to play a different animation so they can transition smoothly out of the dodge into movement state or different state or anything like that? That's a lot that you can do, seeing as this system is so simple to create. So that's it for this one, and bye.